Right now, discussions of housing affordability or the lack thereof seem to be everywhere. The pundits are chiming in, people on TikTok are freaking out, and maybe you've got an uncle who's got 3 rental properties and suddenly thinks he's Warren Buffett right now. But what about you? Well, I think you're smarter than that. I know that there's a bunch of you out there who see the only path to wealth in this unaffordable market is finding your rent replacement strategy. Well, guess what? You're getting some good news. We have 3 massive market reports, and they're showing a big shift underway. And finally, it's in the favor of the home buyers. Let's rock.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
Hey, what's up, my How to Buy a Homies? It's David Sidoni here, the champion for the first-time home buyer. Excited because I'm bringing you some current market data and information, and at long last, it's some stuff that you're going to want to hear. 3 big stories that are going to give you some hope, some confidence, and some motivation. Brand new, don't know where to start? Start with the basic 10 steps of buying a home, beginning at episode 301. This is a 10-step plan to help you build a custom strategy based on real life. And if you want proof it works, check the listener stories in the feed of all the old podcast episodes. They're the one Mark's interview. Real people just like you who crushed their goals, walk through the exact same steps that they took, and you can see what they did. Dude, the last episode with Jessica, she was a first-time home buyer who in the middle of the process of buying a home, she got mugged and she still finished buying a home. It's awesome. And if you need help with basic lingo, every real estate term that first-time home buyers need starts at episode 94, goes from A to Z. And if you have specific questions, just scroll down the titles and look for the thing that applies to you, the thing that you're trying to figure out. And of course, as always, if you still don't know where to start, just go to howtobuyahome.com and hit the Ask David button. And I'll point you to the exact episode or a resource or someplace you can get all the information you're looking for. It's all there. It's free. That's what we do here. Okay, let's get to the good news for the first-time home buyers. We're going to walk through them one by one, and then we'll get into, at the end, what all this information means for you, the hopeful first-time home buyer who's just looking for a break. Report number 1 comes to us from Zillow. It's the May forecast, and it says price cuts are happening and inventory is up. Now, if you listen to the podcast, you know there's only one thing keeping home prices going up in this bizarre, pretty unaffordable housing market. So say it with me now. Low inventory. That's right. And yes, I know this article comes from Zillow, but you know, my feelings about Zillow, it's a great place to get data. They're awesome at data collection. It's a horrendous place for you to find a real estate agent because those people who are there, they just paid to be recommended to you by, my friends at Zillow. But data, they're okay with. Let's see what they're saying is happening across the nation right now. Price cuts have hit record highs. We're seeing more price cuts than we've ever seen. The other thing is inventory is climbing, and that means buyers are starting to get some power back. About 30% of the builders have lowered their prices every single month in 2025. And 3 out of 4 of their quick move-in homes are offering some sick incentives. Quick move-in homes, those are the homes that are like already built. It's not just a plot of dirt that you get to go in and wait 7, 8 months for it to build. These are the ones that are already done. What happens with those is the reason 3 out of 4 of those are getting some of those crazy incentives is because the builders are desperate to get these homes sold. Either they want to move on to the next phase of building because they're the last ones in one of the phases, or maybe they're at the end of the entire project and they just want to close it out completely. Now, this is where we've seen these just redonkulous mortgage interest rate incentives. They're offering 4.9, even 3.99% on a 30-year fixed loan. There's no catch, except you usually have to use the crappy lender that the builder is affiliated with. But good news, if you've got a unicorn realtor, they can walk you through the process and pretty much handhold those lame lenders, and they'll be your advocate to make sure the deal gets done right. Now, as for the existing home sellers, the regular homes for sale that's already been built and somebody's lived in it for a little while. In March, 44% of these homes were giving concessions back to the buyer. Now, that's back to pre-pandemic, normal, regular housing stats. In a balanced market, a lot of times sellers might be overpriced or they don't have a whole bunch of buyers, so they offer a concession. They give you either something or a big credit. Now, keep in mind, this is the national news coming from Zillow, and that could be a lot of the luxury homes that are too overpriced. First-time home buyer, the entry level, the starter home, it's always going to be more competitive. So we're going to take this statistic with a grain of salt. Let's not get crazy and think that, they're giving giant concessions and prices are even getting slashed. As I mentioned in previous episodes, the home prices are actually still going up. Yes, the data shows that we're seeing a decrease in appreciation, what we call a deceleration of the price, but it's a deceleration of a price increase. It's still increasing, just not as fast as it has been. But the expectations in general, they're starting to shift, and the sellers are starting to hear about it. And that's what opens the door for you for better negotiations. In fact, some of the places we're seeing sellers are listing their homes too high when they originally put them on the market. Now, again, not everywhere and not necessarily in the first-time home buyer category, but there are places where we're seeing that. But I do want you to keep in mind that as a first-time home buyer, the smart sellers are listing their homes just under the most recent comparable sale. And that doesn't mean that, oh gosh, the market's totally shifted. Let me go in there and get it for less than the last one. No, they're doing that on purpose to get a bidding war because they want to sell their home fast. That's what we've been doing here in Southern California. We've got a home that listed at $749. I know that's the prices around here. And we got 5 offers in the first weekend, and it sold for $800 after just a few days on the market. And I'm hearing these stories happening on the East Coast, in parts of Texas as well. But according to the data from this report, concessions are something that are happening in many regions of the country. And those concessions can mean a huge benefit for you. Like you can use a credit to get yourself a mortgage interest rate buy down. And if you got what we call a 2-1 mortgage interest rate buy down, you could lock in a 4.9 interest rate for the first year that you're in that home. In fact, I just dropped a short video about this on the How to Buy a Home YouTube channel if you want more information about how mortgage interest rate buy downs work. So, report number 1, concessions are happening. That's the takeaway from that one. Now, report number 2 comes to us from Bright MLS. And the headline is Signs of a Buyer-Friendly Market. In this article, it talked about mortgage interest rates dropping from 7% to 6.5% for what turned out to be just a minute. And the buyers who took advantage of that, of course, they found a nice little competitive edge. Again, as of today, I think that last time I checked, interest rates on average were at about 6.9%. So for you, your strategy is instead of rate shopping, you should be doing realtor and lender shopping. Then you grab your team, you create a fully prepared strategy together. And when you have all your ducks more than in a row, I'm talking like crazy military formation, then if there does happen to be another dip, you'll have everything prepared and you'll be ready to pounce on it. This report noted that in some places, competition still can be pretty intense for the starter home first-time home buyer sector. But it did also find through surveys to buyers all over the country that 42% of buyers put their plans to purchase a home on hold in 2025. Now, I don't know if you've heard this, but there's one thing that's being vastly reported. These are all the news outlets, all the nerdy stuff that I read all the time, because the stock market roller coaster with the whole tariff drama, what it's causing is a whole bunch of folks are electing to sit on the sidelines for a lot of big purchases, including buying a home. What does this mean for you? Well, we'll get more into that strategy at the end of the episode. Diving back into the report says that fear has created buyers that are actually more than ready when they finally reach out to a realtor. They surveyed a bunch of realtors who said that 80% of the buyers that reached out to them could immediately qualify for a mortgage. 40% of the buyers closed on a home in under a month, and 50% of those buyers only had to make one offer and they got their home. Now, if you're listening to all the doom and gloom headlines, that's not what you're going to hear. They're producing news and internet articles with shock and awe to try to get you to buy into the drama and click on their story. But this is not news to me. One thing I know for doing this almost 20 years In any kind of market, especially a fearful one, first-time home buyers, they just tend to over-prepare on their own before they actually make a call to a pro team, which means most of them are leaving money on the table with solutions they could have done sooner if they'd been working with a guided team as opposed to trying to do it all themselves. On themselves? Is that a sentence? I don't know. Let's move on to report number 3. This one comes from Redfin. It's an interesting local news story, but again, just want you guys to have this information so you realize, yes, I can come on here on the microphone and give you all the news about everything that I'm reading, about everything that's going on in the national news, but you need to be in contact with a local team because check this out. Thanks to DOGE and 121,000 federal workers laid off or targeted to be laid off, Washington, D.C., their inventory is up 25% from last year, and that's double the national average. Alexandria, Virginia is up 40.9%. Montgomery County is up 38.5% in Maryland. And Loudoun, am I saying that right? Loudoun County, Virginia, it's up 36.8%. Now, despite all of this inventory, the math gets kind of funky. This is where people, when they break it down to the basic math, they assume that, well, when supply goes up, then that means that the prices are going to go down because there's more supply, and so they have to price their homes more attractively. Yeah. Prices are still up 4.1% in the Washington, D.C. area, the DMV, as they call it over there, with the median home price at $600,964. Now, yes, the price is still going up, but it's increasing slower than it used to. But it's still going up, even though they have all that inventory. The demand, it's still present, but the supply is rising a little bit faster than demand, but not enough to make the prices drop because of, can you say it with me now? Low inventory. That's right. The inventory was so low that even with double the national average, they're still not at a place where it's turning to a complete buyer's market. That's just some information that all of you can take and digest because I know obviously not all of you out there are in the DC area. So let's figure out what this report can mean for you where you are. All right. In general, supply is rising, maybe not as fast as it is in DC, but we found out that from the earlier reports, yeah, it's rising. So that means sellers, they can be a little less dominant than they used to be. It also means that the builders for new homes, they're offering some serious incentives. And in many areas of the country, you're going to have some room to negotiate as a buyer. Holy cannoli, I haven't said that in a while. In fact, let me knock on some wood right here. Some regions are turning from a seller's market into, dare I even say it, buyer's markets. Don't go crazy and get all excited and think, oh my God, it's going to be just like 2021. No. If you're going back and you're looking at the historical numbers, you're going to see that the prices were way different back then. So by doing the new math of where we are right now, it's going to be a more, well, I'd say a bigger pill to swallow right now, but it's still a window of opportunity. And that window gets even wider because of the fear that the rest of the public is acting on. So if you want some data to back up the theory that even though you can't buy a home at those 2021 prices, and even though it's not as affordable as it was a few years ago, what means that this is still the smart play right now? And is waiting really going to hurt as opposed to help? Because it just seems so ridiculous. Okay, number one, something that's going to help you feel confident in what you're doing. Well, consider the source that you're getting the information. I've been dropping these truth bombs for years, and I always tell you, I promise to tell you when things shift. I promise to tell you when it looks like there could be a waiting period. But right now, I'm telling you the same thing I've been saying since 2019. The same thing I said after the pandemic when everyone said, I'm not going to buy a house right now. It's a global pandemic. I wasn't telling to buy people a house in, March 20th of 2020. Is that when it was? Yeah, 2020. But I was telling people when I started to see things come back, hey, it's coming back. Number two, the reason why you should understand and believe this is a smart play for you. There's something called fear-based waiting. I've seen this so often. It's what's happening right now. That's why it's a window. But I've been seeing it for a long time. The fear-based waiting is assuming that waiting is going to be better for you because there's going to be a shift or a drop or a crash. And that means a better deal is going to come your way because there's so much fear about what might happen. Well, people have been saying this to me, like I said, my entire career. And I told people back in the beginning, this is maybe a good time. That's not a bad time. Well, let me tell you what I've been telling you since the podcast. Actually, let's just go back a few years. Since the fall of 2023, people who were paying attention and listening to the podcast in the summer of 2023, I was telling them rates are at 3%. This is an incredible deal. Well, then rates went from 3% to 8%. And people said, nope, I'm going to wait because it's going to crash. It didn't. And then in 2024, there was a bunch of inflation concern. And so people said, nope, I'm going to wait. And it didn't crash. And then in the end of 2024, everyone said, I'm going to wait for the election. And then after the election in 2025, people said, well, I want to wait and see what's going on with the economic policies. And then the past few months, it's been, I'm going to see what's going on with the tariff upheaval. Guess what, gang? During that entire period, yes, the news was terrifying. And there really wasn't a clear-cut forecast anywhere, except one thing, it wasn't going to tank. Even though everything was total mayhem, there was one piece of data that meant that as everyone was fearful with everything that was happening, we didn't see an increase in this one area. It's the third time. I'm going to say it again. Say it with me now. Low inventory. And then we just break it down to simple economics. It was more demand than supply. And it's still happening because the demand, even when it's fearful, our normal demand is so far below the supply of inventory of homes for sale. And that means that prices, maybe less than they were a couple of years ago, they're still going to keep going up. And yes, at the same time that you're watching all this happen, the rents have been increasing as well. So the best strategy was before, back to 2023, when rates took a huge 5-point jump through all the other mayhem, and up to today, the best strategy still is creating your own rent replacement strategy so you can get all the benefits of paying yourself. And now we're finding out that you might have an extra advantage of a little bit of a buyer's market. You've got a shot. If you make the move a smart move, it's going to be a better thing for you. Turns out the housing market might be rebalancing a little bit. The data is showing you have more negotiation power than ever in recent time, and inventory's going up. Not a ton. Remember, it was all the way in the gutter. It's going up a little. So you're going to go out there and go, dude, he said there was inventory going up. There's like one house for sale in my neighborhood. Okay, I'm telling you, in January, there was none. So a little bit of an increase is better than nothing. Don't let the myths about down payments or credit scores or employment history or student loans or whatever it is that makes you think that you can't be a home buyer hold you back from just asking the question. See if you can jump on this window. What's the worst thing that can happen if you do that? Well, okay, I'll tell you. If you talk to a professional because you have these myths and you think you can't buy a home, the worst thing that can happen is they can validate your thought. Yeah, you can't do this. Now, here's the thing. Is that so terrible? You just got validated with what you already thought. And it's definitely not terrible if the professional that you talk to doesn't just validate your thought and tell you to get the hell out of their office, but maybe they give you a plan. Maybe they give you action steps to put you on the path to being able to buy someday. And I've told you before, unfortunately, the real estate industry, it sucks. And it is just not good at doing that for first-time home buyers. And that's what I'm working like mad to change here at the podcast and at howtobuyahome.com. What's really cool is if the worst thing that can happen is someone tells you, yep, you're right, you can't buy right now. I find that many of you, that won't be the answer. For a lot of you, you're way more ready than you think. And you're going to find out by asking that you were wrong. The myths were just that. They were false. And now the data is telling you the odds might be better for you. And the competition is too scared to do the math and see that this is a good decision, even though it feels like it's a crazy, unaffordable time. What does it hurt for you to just ask and see if maybe you are one of those ready people? It's time to be an innovator. It's time to be an early adopter. take control of your financial life when everyone else is freaking out. A home is a beautiful piece of stability for you. It offers a forced savings account, something that when you're spending all that money every month anyway, now at least it can be going towards something that you know in 5 or 10 years when all this settles down, at least that's going to appreciate. So dive through this window, the window of opportunity, and start paying yourself. And look, sure, yeah, it's going to be tricky. So that's why you hire the best. Your guided preparation is going to pay off big time while the others continue to throw years of rent into their fear bucket. All you have to do, go to howtobuyahome.com if you have specific questions. I'll answer it for you. And remember, the data is with you. So go ahead and get started. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.